My name is Amol. I did my bachelor's of engineering from Birla Institute of Technology. Then I joined an edtech company, worked there for a year, and then sparked into mobile gaming. And I've been doing this for the past 4 years now. I'm more than beyond happy. I'm relieved, first of all, that now it's over with, and now like I can move on to doing better things. Best trait of an engineer is that they overshoot things and they're highly confident about things, and I was one of them. And GMAT isn't a test for of reading, right? It's not. They don't test your English. They're just testing your verbal reasoning. And
Hi, Amol. First of all, congratulations on a wonderful, wonderful 730 score. I'm sure you must be ecstatic. And thank you so much for coming here today.
thanks a lot for inviting me. I'm more than beyond happy. I'm relieved, first of all, that now it's over with, and now like I can move on to doing better things, move on to applying for schools, for which this had been a major task. Took entirety of like 2-3 months of my life, but now finally we are done with it.
It's all over.
Yeah,
We can close the
it's over.
chapter on this book.
Yeah, yeah.
So, for everyone else out there who doesn't know you, give us a little bit of a brief into who you are.
Oh, okay. Uh, my name is Amol. I did my bachelor's of engineering from Birla Institute of Technology. Then I joined an edtech company, worked there for a year, and then sparked into mobile gaming. And I've been doing this for the past 4 years now. I look after strategy and operations of a mobile gaming app, and now that I have 730, I'll be probably applying to a lot of European schools.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and I thank e-GMAT for helping me in this journey.
Oh, we're very happy to have been part of that journey. So, what I can see is, and as everyone else who's watching will also learn, is that you're a man who knows the risks, knows how to game the system, and knows how to get to where you want to be in a very, very fast timeline. But let's not jump steps. Let's start right at the beginning. So, how did you kind of decide that one, an MBA is something you want to do, and then start on that GMAT journey?
Um, so, um, so basically, the reason that I want to do an MBA is because I want to start something of my own,
Hmm.
and I think an MBA would help me uh, fill the gaps that I have in my knowledge, and would help me make global connections, research into um, countries and continents and regions that I, sitting here in India, cannot do from here.
Hmm.
And basically, so that's where what I wanted to do, and I thought that getting an MBA would be a perfect start for this. So, um, in September, in August, I thought, okay, the first step to doing an MBA, first step in even in applying in a school, would be just getting this GMAT or slash GRE,
Hmm.
just giving it and just then checking what schools that I can target. And I thought GMAT would be an easier option
Hmm.
because a couple of my friends had already gone through this journey. Um, so yeah, then I thought, okay, first thing first, I'll just prepare for my GMAT, and then see what things I can do, or what plans I can make after that.
Wonderful. So
Yeah,
then that was around September. So you decided on the GMAT. And how did
yeah.
you really start that GMAT journey? What was your first step into that space?
So as I said, I had a couple of friends who had already given GMAT, and one of my friend, I was talking to her. I was telling her about the whole process that I wanted to do, and I basically first, before researching on the internet or anywhere, asked her what she did, and she told me that she prepared from e-GMAT,
Mm-hmm.
and also took help from GMAT Club.
Hmm.
So those were my two starting points. And she also told me about MBA.com, and there you can get two free mocks to
Mhm.
test where you stand, get a base score set.
Mhm.
So these three were my starting points. I didn't research much on the internet because she scored a 730 from e-GMAT. Like that was evidence that this course must be good, right?
Mhm.
And
Old hard proof for you.
yeah, it was like right in front of me. I knew that she didn't prepare that much and still got a 730. So either she is like superhuman or the course is great. So yeah, so that's how I started, like parallelly with MBA.com, like
Mhm.
GMAT, e-GMAT, and GMAT Law.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you kind of came onto the platform, what was the first thing that you really did? How did you kind of begin preparing on that platform to get to that 700 plus goal?
Yeah. So initially, I don't know. Right off the bat, I thought I want a 750 because I thought, oh, that will be very easy, right? Because I'm an engineer.
Uh-huh.
I thought, yeah, and the the I think the best trait of an engineer is that they overshoot things and they're like highly confident about things. And I was one of them. And I thought, oh, 750 will be easy. So let me just give one Sigma mock test on e-GMAT, and I'll just see where I am standing.
Mhm.
And before that, I had already given the two free mock tests on
Mhm.
MBA.com, and I had gotten a 680 and a 670, if I remember, on both of them.
Mhm.
So I kind of knew, okay, this is the base that I've achieved. And when I gave the Sigma mock test, I again scored a 670 on that.
Mhm.
So I was confident. Okay, so this is my starting point, and just to get a 750, I'll need these 80 points. The best part I liked right from there is that the analysis, the ESR I got of that mock,
Mhm.
and then e-GMAT proposed that they can tailor this timetable according to my date and my expected score, and like tailor how I should begin preparing for that. So yeah, that's when I bought I think the 2 months course. I
Mhm.
don't remember exactly, but I bought the
Mhm.
course, and I had all this timetable planned in front of me, that I have these are the sections that I have to start with. This is the amount of time that it will take, and if I'm planning to give the exam, which I was planning to give in the third or fourth week of October at that time. So it had everything planned out for me,
Mhm.
that by this time I'll be able to finish, and if I'm doing everything correctly, I'll be able to get that score and eventually get to that
750 kind of.
that 750 score.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay. So you had the plan, you
yeah,
had the data, all of it was really clear, and you
yeah,
also had that timeline very clearly in front of you. So
yeah.
then I know that you put in a lot of work in that time period. And if I remember, and so let's talk about verbal first, right? So how did you really kind of start off with that verbal preparation of things?
So I knew. I read a lot. So I knew, okay, my reading speed would not be something that I have to worry about. But GMAT isn't a test for like of reading, right? It's not. They don't test your English. They're just testing your verbal reasoning. And
Mm.
yeah, and when I gave the first E Sigma, uh, my sentence correction, my SC was the poorest one out of the three sections.
Mhm.
RC was pretty good, CR was fine, but SC was poor. I had just one or two correct answers out of the 13, 14 that were there. So I already knew where I had to start with, and even in that personalized plan that I got from day one,
Mhm.
it was scheduled that I'll finish the SE one first, section
Mhm.
first, then I'll do CR, then I'll do RC, and then I will take care of the maths, because quant I was already on Q 47, 48 range. So I knew, okay,
Not as
that will be,
much
yeah,
work to
that will
really
be
do.
less hard work as compared to verbal.
Mhm. For
So
sure.
yeah.
Okay. So when you went through that SC course, as you were kind of going through, how do you think it really changed the way that you were looking at SC questions? What was that enhancement that really happened there?
Hmm. So I think my grammar was always pretty fine to begin
Mm-hmm.
with, but what happens like you learn grammar in school, right? And after that, you have like 3 or 4 years of college and like 4 or 5 years of office, and then you start to when you start to speak English, a lot of grammar just goes out of the window because communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start reading those sentences, a lot of sentences just make sense because they kind of deliver the same meaning. And that was the first myth that e-GMAT broke to me, that no, written English has rules, and these are the rules that GMAT adheres to and follows to, and these are the rules that firstly you'll have to identify. So that was a skill that e-GMAT taught me. Okay, identify where the things can go wrong. Identify if this sentence, for example, has a subject verb error, or do you think this sentence has a parallelism error. So, firstly, identifying those issues, and then getting a solid base of grammar behind it. And thirdly, even after that, I couldn't get all the questions right. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
get that 90% or that 85% accuracy. But then the third approach was meaning based approach, which I really loved, and I think that was a game changer because um, grammar or following the rules or remembering what rules were like can only take you so far. But at the end of the day, you'll have to ask yourself that I am reading this question, this sentence. Does that sentence make sense?
Mm-hmm. That's
And yeah, and when I started doing that, as I saw in the videos as well, slow reading and strategizing, pausing, and then asking this question, okay, does this make sense?
mm-hmm.
Then a lot of things like cleared out for me. And
Mm-hmm.
then that was the time where I really understood, okay, so this is how I'll have to tackle the SC questions.
Mm-hmm. So then that's again really drawing back to the reasoning part of that verbal reasoning piece, where
Yeah,
it's not, like you said, it's not just that grammar that can only take you so far, but it's about really delving into what that sentence is trying to tell you
yeah.
and what that whole structure is. So that's really wonderful. Then I think you moved on to CR, which I know that pre-thinking didn't completely work for you, but I think it
Hmm.
still helped you kind of modify your approach in some ways, if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I think CR had always been a seesaw for me. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
for in some tests or sectional tests, I performed really well, like got 9 out of 10 correct, and then suddenly on the second one, I got like 4 out of 10 correct. So which I couldn't identify the weakness in my first attempt as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the approach pre-thinking, I think pre-thinking, I should divide it into two parts, and then one part really worked out for me. The first part was like identify conclusions,
Mm-hmm.
identify the assumptions, identify the links between the information given, the premises, and the conclusions. That, and if you can identify the link, a lot of question you can get answers for a lot of questions just by emphasizing on the links that you can find. And the second part of that was, okay, now you have done all that. Now you have done all the homework. You've done all the base work. Now ask that pre-thinking question, and then try that whole approach. I think that didn't work out for me because uh, I was comfortable identifying the links and then getting an answer just straight out of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really need pre-thinking approach.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So it kind
yeah,
of essentially helped enhance an already existing process that you had. So then you were able to really fall back on that, again, playing to your strengths and then really just enhancing what was already there, if I
yeah,
understand correctly, right?
yeah,
And then you moved to RC, which again, I think went pretty well for you overall initially, right?
yeah.
And it was, I think, after you did most all of the verbal course and most of quant and that practice that you really went in for your first GMAT attempt. So
Yes.
how did that go for you?
Oh, so I knew it would not go well. So I already kind of had an hunch. Because before that I had, again, I was, even my Sigma mocks show that I was playing a game of like seesaw. I was seesawing around. I got a 670, then I got a 700, then I got a 680. So the scores were not stable,
Hmm.
and which I couldn't identify at the point, that why is it happening. Quant scores were kind of stable across, but not verbal scores. And I
Hmm.
didn't have that, really. I didn't have the time to analyze my weaknesses in verbal, so I just went and gave the first attempt, and I got a 680,
Hmm.
and which I kind of knew that it was coming. My plan to prepare wasn't foolproof at that time, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, 680, my first GMAT.
And I think that's also when you realized with that 680 that one, there was that variation in performance that you needed to fix. And two, you had a very short timeline to actually fix all of those things, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you are, like you said, looking to apply this year. And this was, I think, about early November, late October, around that time,
late October.
late October, right? The last week or so. So you had only about 30 odd days to really complete the your GMAT aspect of things if you wanted to apply this year. And I think that's also around the time that we got in touch. And I think after that point, that's when you realized as well that uh, your performance so far has, in your own words, been kind of a sine curve. You know, it's been
Yeah,
going up.
yeah,
It's had its great highs, but it's also gone low, and there's really been that variance. So I think the first thing that we really needed to deal with was beat it into a straight line, essentially. You know,
absolutely.
this is we didn't
Like
want a roller coaster.
I was satisfied if I've gotten like 680 across. So I knew, okay, I'm getting like 680. I'll score a 680. But when you kind of see a 720 in your mocks, I even got a 750 in some other third party mock. So when you see that kind of scores, you kind of expect that, okay, 10 or 20 points here and there, and I'll get a 730. I'll get a 740. And then you like swoop down, and it's you don't want to see the six in your score like anywhere.
No,
So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely not. So we had to kind of beat out that roller coaster and make it the straightest road possible.
possible.
And
Yeah,
that was a lot of construction work to do in very little time.
very little time.
So describe to everyone exactly what kind of a sprint the two of us ran for that 30 days, kind of leading up to your
So
second attempt.
that the month of November was hectic, but it was the most fun that I've had, I think, in a while. Uh, we started, I think, first or second of November,
Around that time, the
and
first couple of days of November.
yeah, the first couple of days we tried, and I was like, okay. Um, I also emailed Payal
Mhm.
that, okay, this is the LMP program, and I want to be in this program because I have only have a month left to give the exam, and I have got to score uh, at least a 720 or 730 odd. And then when we started, it was just 4 weeks of, and we didn't know what my weaknesses were. First of all, like the basic thing, we didn't know where I struggled. We didn't know why this variance is happening. So figuring the big thank you to you for figuring that out, because I really didn't have the time to figuring out what was
Individually.
wrong and what went uh, bad. And but then you, over the emails, you gave me pointers that, okay, your CR is really weak. And even when we saw the ESR report of the first GMAT score, it was crystal clear that it was the CR section that was the really that was hampering my uh, progress in the score. I really liked how we drilled down individual sections first, completed them, gave quizzes and test readiness, and then moved on to the another subsection. Uh, because that's what really gave me confidence that okay, I am progressing and this can be achieved.
And I think also that aspect that, for those who don't know, the Last Mile program is this kind of hyper intensive program for people who are in the last stages of their prep so that they can get on that really predictable path essentially to their success. So with you, it was a lot about, yes, identifying and working on those weaknesses, but also because of the paucity of time, setting very, very clear, targets and deadlines
Yeah.
and limits that we needed to achieve. So I think taking all of that real guesswork out of what you needed to do was very, very essential because of the limited time frame that we had, you know. And I want to actually dispute the fact that you didn't necessarily do the work of figuring out you were wrong. And the biggest example that springs to mind is with WP. Because if you
Ah,
remember with
yeah.
WP, I didn't let you let that go. Um, WP was a point of contention for you. It was where your accuracy on the quant side was lower, and it's something we needed to fix. So I asked you, what is going wrong here? What are you doing? And I think you responded, I'm making silly mistakes or I'm having
Hmm.
trouble here and there. I was like, you
Yeah.
you cannot stop there. That's way too general. You
Yeah.
need to push, you need to be very, very specific here. So definitely you that 1 month you gave it 150% to really get to where you needed to be. There was not a
But
deadline you missed. There was not an effort you didn't put in.
but that was easy, I guess, because when I was trying to figure out
Mhm,
what my weakness was in quant, I just had to just go to the Scholaranium platform and I just looked for the data, the skill data that we have for individual subsection,
mhm,
and it was like crystal clear, all reds in WP. So I kind of knew, okay, this is where I'm going wrong. So
mhm.
I think those metrics really help you just figure it out in an instant where what is going wrong and what is going right for you.
For sure. So how did that Scholaranium piece kind of play in, especially in that last month where, like you said, there was a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. How
Yeah.
does having those kind of metrics make it easier for you to track what you're doing?
Like first of all, um, if you see, okay, so for those who don't know what kind of metrics we're talking about, for there are individual sections and then you get a percentage of correct questions here that you've the questions correct that you've gotten. So before, for example, in verbal, I could see, okay, my SC had been at a 60%,
Mm,
but now that I've been studying, this is the 1 week or 1.5 week that I've exclusively been studying for SC and delivering on those deadlines that my mentor has been giving me. And I could see, okay, for the last 20 questions, my accuracy has suddenly jumped to 80%. I could see that right there on the dashboard. And I think more than like following the processes and getting the questions correct, it's that mental game of seeing 60 to 80 that really gives you confidence and gives you boost. And then you can, okay, I can do 60 to 80. I can also do 80 to 90, and I can also do a 680 to a 730. So
yeah.
that those metrics, and those are very easy to find. Like you can see graphs going up, you can see things going from red to green. So even if you're not a data person, it's very visual, so you can know, okay, I'm on a right track.
Mm,
I'll do it. I can do it.
yeah. Because no matter who you are, the data can't lie to you, right? So if the
Exactly.
data is telling you that yes, you're doing the right thing, or no, you're not doing the right thing, at that point, it's empirical evidence that you can either choose to follow or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like you said, we worked on all these individual soldiers essentially, preparing them for war. We got all of them fighting fit and ready. And then we kind of moved into that test readiness phase where we really
Hmm.
focused on bringing all those individual pieces into one harmonious whole. So, what do you think? What do you think the importance of test readiness really is, especially when you're from moving from that 680 stage to that 730 stage?
Yeah, I think a lot of us, a lot of people who are attempting GMAT, a lot of us score great in individual sections, but when the sections are combined and then we sit for a test or a practice exam, we cannot continue over long period of time because I don't know, maybe fatigue or maybe we just can't focus for that long. So I think test readiness really helps in that. And we didn't start with all 36 questions, for example, for verbal. We didn't start for all 36 questions in one go. What I really liked was we built that endurance and we built that kind of readiness by doing okay a 17 question quiz, and which I was really worried that when it will all come together, I might not able to be perform. I might not able to perform as well as I was performing in individual sections. But okay, we started with 17 question quizzes. We could see okay that this is what is happening in these 17 question quizzes. Then it went up to 25 question quizzes for both of the sections, and then finally it went to okay, these are your 36 and 31 question quizzes individually. Take them and let's see what happens. I think gradually building up to that really helps out a lot.
Mhm. It's like a step-by-step process rather than,
Yeah,
jumping into the deep end of the pool feet first,
yeah,
right?
really.
So that test readiness piece, then we did two mocks, and I think you did
Yeah,
really well in those mocks. There was a level of consistency across both of them, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
yeah,
720 on one, I think, and 740 on the other. So consistent 90th percentile, 700 plus scores,
yeah.
right? And then you went for D-Day for the actual exam. So how did that experience go for you?
Oh, that was. So I remember. Okay, so I remember you telling me during the emails also that okay, if your exam is on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm,
just chill on Monday. Don't
mm-hmm,
don't worry about the exam too much and don't do a lot of questions. And I followed that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I gave my last second mock on Saturday
mm-hmm,
and just studied for a while on Sunday. Did nothing on Tuesday. Didn't like even open a book. Didn't even solve a question, and just went straight to the exam on Tuesday. But that was really bad planning on my part.
mm-hmm,
Uh, this was not bad planning. Okay, chilling on Monday was great, but I had the exam at 1 p.m. and I had the same center, so I knew okay where I was going. But because I got very nervous the last time, and I knew this is the second time, it's kind of a do or die situation, and I'll be jittery and nervous. I should just wake up really late and just rush to the exam center and just before thoughts can even come into my mind, I'll just by the time that happens, I'll just sit in front of the screen ready to write my first quant question, which is not the right way in hindsight. But okay, I made a mistake, and the people who will see this should know that please take a little time, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, reach before that, and really breathe before the exam. Don't necessarily do questions, but really breathe and analyze. Okay, this is what is about to happen, and you're mentally prepared.
So recreating that whole kind of movie last minute exam hall
No,
topper situation is not the recommended way to go.
no.
It
That
worked for
only
you.
happens in movies.
It worked for
That
you, babe.
that
But
was really.
no.
I think that is really fiction. Don't please don't try this at home. Uh, really, it wouldn't help you.
Somehow we managed to increase the stresses rather
Yeah,
than bring it down. So definitely, everyone out there, please cushion the arrival to your
yeah,
test center by at least 30 minutes because the last thing you want to do is try and become, a fictional exam topper in a real world scenario. Not the heights we're hoping to
yeah.
achieve here.
Not recommended at all.
Yeah. So that was a real roller coaster, I think, from starting out, you gave yourself a couple of months, you prepared, but had a roller coaster in terms of your results, right?
Yeah,
Constant highs and lows. And I can't imagine the screaming that must have been there from high to low, right? And then you had a whole different kind of sprint to run for 1 month. So I'm sure that at the end of that, when you saw that 730, you were just relieved that, okay, can
yeah.
close the chapter on this book right now.
Really, absolutely. I think I did my quant first, then verbal, then the IR section, and finally the essay. And I think I had like 5 minutes left on my essay, but I started panicking, not because of the essay question, but because what will happen as soon as I press the submit button
Mhm.
and I'll see that score. I couldn't afford to like score some 600 something this time. And I had a little issue with my verbal section as well. There were a little issue on time. So I
Mhm.
thought if I've like bombed the verbal section, there is no hope, right? I'll again go for a 680 or 690. But as soon as I saw that 730, I was finally relieved that okay, like, this is done. I'm not going to do that again. That's over. Let's just go home.
Go home, close the book, tossed out the
Yeah,
window, all the
yeah.
good things. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So if you had to tell anyone who is in a similar scenario or who's just starting on their prep or seeing, who's gone through the kind of multitude of things that you're going through, if you wanted anyone to know anything about their preparation, what would it be?
I think it's better to start early. You don't have to rush or sprint like I did. I think my 1 month sprint was a metaphor for the last 30, 20-minute sprint I did to reach the exam hall. Don't do that. Take a 2 or 3 months time. Firstly, you should identify like how can you like tackle it, because I think the GMAT is a really a chess match between
Mhm.
you and the computer, the adaptive system. So like really figure out like is 1 month enough for me? Is maybe like I need 2 or 3 months, plan in advance, start in advance, so that because I started in September, I could afford another retake. So give yourself that buffer time. I think that will be the biggest takeaway that I can give to somebody.
For sure.
Plan in
And yeah,
advance and yeah,
no, absolutely, right? Because this is an exam that can mean so much in terms of your application. So you don't want this to be the kind of noose around your neck when
yeah,
application season does actually start.
yeah,
As soon as you can get this squared away, as soon as you can have your ducks in place so that when this time comes, you can focus just on one thing, all the better. And or at least like for Amol, you have the time to plan and actually execute on a retake, and you're not stuck applying with a score that you don't necessarily want,
yeah,
right? So solid advice, good, very practical advice that I hope people listen and apply, because miracles are few and far in between, and you don't want to bench on them. You want to bench on predictable success,
yeah.
and you want to execute that predictable success, right? So thank you so much for coming. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, driving this roller coaster, right? And I'm so excited to see what you'll do next. And I'm once again, congratulations on that wonderful 730.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
All right. Thanks.